Welcome to Room Brothers. This is going to be the next episode of the exciting motorcycling customization and modification project that we are working on called the Suzuki Gixxer SF series. As I explained at the introduction of this project, each episode is going to be a dedicated guidebook on how to maintain the specific part that we are dealing in that specific episode. So if you watch all the episodes of this Suzuki Gixxer SF series, you can work on any motorcycle that you own, irregardless of the brand. That's how detailed and professional this series is gonna be. In the previous video, we partially dismantled the motorcycle, and let's dig deep and dismantle it further in this one. As we move along, I'm going to share tips and tricks on how to dismantle your motorcycle, whether you ride a 100cc Hero Splendor or a 400cc motorcycle like the Royal Enfield's KTM's, Bajaj, Triumphs, so on, or a 1000cc superbike like the Ninja 1000, or a 1200cc adventure motorcycle like the BMWs. It doesn't really matter because the dismantling procedures are very much similar to each other. So this is going to be very helpful for you guys, so don't skip. So grab your popcorn, sit back and enjoy the ride. Just to show you the condition of the center panel of the fuel tank, it is busted and the paint has peeled off, looking very ugly, which we're gonna deal with in the later part of the project. Carefully identify the screws on the panel and begin to unscrew them. Using different sets of tools to remove the bolts and nuts appropriately without damaging them is the key of the art of working on your machine. It's always a good practice to remove and store the nuts and bolts of the project appropriately so that you don't lose them while you are refitting. All the bolts and nuts of the panels have been removed, so let's start removing them. Since all these modern bikes nowadays comes with plastic panels, so be careful and gentle while you are dismantling them. Slightly tap on them identify the pivot points and places where the panel is fitted onto the motorcycle, and start to remove them slowly and gently. Otherwise, you end up breaking these plastic parts, which are costly, and we don't want that in any given scenario. This is 7 years of dirt, mud, and grime collected onto the panels and fuel tank, which has never been cleaned before by the looks of it. Gently tapping and removing the panel. This part definitely needs to be taken care of because of the condition that it is in. Just look at the condition of the fuel tank and the amount of dust that it has collected over these years. If we don't address this and leave it this way, eventually the fuel tank is gonna rust and deteriorate. And you end up buying a new fuel tank assembly, which would cost you a lot more. This is why projects like these are very necessary so that you can take care of your vehicle personally. You can hardly find any content creator that is showing automotive content in this detailed manner, explaining every minute detail of it so that at the end of the day you can personally maintain your automobile. Whether it's a car or a 100cc motorcycle or a 1000cc superbike, these procedures are the same. That's why it needs proper guidance and expertise for you to work on them. So, subscribing to Room Brothers is the best thing that you can do in 2025, especially if you are an automotive enthusiast or a youngster who wants to get into automotives. Now, slowly and gently begin to remove the fuel tank hoses and lines. Generally, Royal Enfields and some other brands give their fuel hoses and fuel filter assembly on the right side of the motorcycle. In this case, the Suzuki gives it on the left side. Also disconnect the fuel pump and connector hose. This model right here is a carbureted model, so no need of it. Disconnect the fuel gauge coupler which is underneath the fuel tank. All the modern motorcycles, the Royal Enfields, Yamahas, Suzukis, Hondas, KTMs, all have the similar positioning, so make sure you disconnect the coupler. Disconnect the fuel cock hose pipe. Make sure you have removed every hose pipe and connector before removing the fuel tank from the frame of the motorcycle. Can't really wait to clean this tank and see this being restored, which is gonna happen in the coming episodes. That's why don't even miss a single episode of this Suzuki Gixxer series because you're gonna learn and you're gonna have so much of knowledge regarding your machine. Inspect the frame and the exposed parts for any significant damages, and if any, note it down as a separate job that you need to do so that you don't forget it later on. Inspecting the condition of the fuel houses and the electronic components that hide under the fuel tank, and taking notes whether if any of these needs replacement. These little push tabs or buttons are very delicate, so use proper tools like this that I'm using here. It's called hook and pick, that are specifically designed to tasks like this so that you don't damage these little and tiny parts. This is where the professionalism comes into picture. Almost every car and motorcycle has these buttons or push lock tabs, and losing them or breaking them will make these panels rattle, producing unnecessary noises while riding. Keep the nuts and bolts in separate packets specific to the part that you are removing so that you don't misplace them or lose them later on. Invest in a decent amount of toolset which would last for the years to come, saving you from the breaking of the bolts or the shearing off of the bolts. We have seen how the local mechanics or even authorized service centers using poor tool sets or broken tool sets, damaging the fastness of your car or motorcycle. Most of the people or the customers don't pay attention to these things, but these little details matter a lot if you want to maintain the machine in an immaculate condition for years and years. Remove the tail light coupler using the hook and pick tool. Don't damage the couplers while removing them. Remove the rear seat cable from its assembly. It would be either on the left or right side depending on your motorcycle brand. Identify the locking tabs and gently pull them out to remove the tail section. It's always a professional practice that I have developed over these years to cover every fuel line, hose pipe, and the electronic coupler that I have disconnected and removed so that no amount of dirt or insects go inside the system. And if you are a new guy learning this, it's a good practice to name the couplers and pipelines so that you will remember the exact position and where it needs to go. This is how the motorcycle looks with upper parts removed. Now you have to sit down, observe and inspect every minute detail and part to see if you would find any further repairs or jobs that needs to be addressed and done while it's easily accessible, and take down notes so that you don't forget it. I found a couple of extra jobs that needs to be done which are coming on in the next episodes. I'm sure you learned a lot just by this single episode, and I'm planning something very exciting for the next episode, which we're gonna keep a little bit of suspense. So, you guys have to watch the next episode without fail. I'll see you soon. Peace.